And hello there, everybody. I've been playing an MMO again. An actual MMO. I know, I've been in the fix for another survival game, and yes, I should probably just go and play Ark already. Alright? I hear you. This one is called Wild Terra Online, and it's in the same vein. They operate their own servers themselves, and it's the whole, sandbox survival, make your own way kind of game. You set out, you're with absolutely nothing to start off with, and you slowly gather and, build up your character in terms of the items, components, and gear they're carrying. Now, on death, you do lose absolutely everything that stays on your body, but being a multiplayer server and a multiplayer world in general, someone can come along and steal your stuff, and there is also PvP there, but when I was actually playing for quite a few hours, I only saw one person, and I think that was a GM, so I think that tells you about the health of this game. The actual concept behind it sounds great, we've done it all before, but the implementation is just really sloppy. It doesn't feel as polished, and the graphical styling just isn't as interesting to bring you in there. It's the top-down isometric view, kind of a 2D/3D world thing, but it's very basic in its implementation. I know this is still very alpha, okay, so things may change and probably will change along a lot of lines, but I think in the general style of things, the look and the feel of the game is going to stay relatively the same. It is crafting and survival, but without a hook, without a lure there to keep you playing and keep you wanting more, but just the random grind, I spent quite a bit of time, and while I just getting my gear together, getting enough resources, losing a couple of times to a couple of random mobs and enemies, that kind of thing, and just slowly building myself up. But it just didn't hook me enough to really want to, you know what I mean? I kept with it, I did, but it didn't interest me in the slightest. It was boring grind, and not the good kind of grind that you can get into and the repetitive flow that you might feel certain times. It was just bad grind because of both the visuals and also the mechanics themselves. The actual, controls are really quite unpolished, jittery, and not overly enjoyable to use. There is a whole base building aspect as well. I got to that, and that could be interesting. It feels kind of like a mashup between those those early Evany tile strategy games, and also the whole survival kick that's going around now, where you get to build your base in this world, but you have to physically own that space by putting down a certain totem, and then that is yours. There's a few other big towns around that I saw that people have been building, and you can progressively make your section larger and larger and larger. But people can get in and they can destroy your space. They can destroy your little stone, and once that stone is gone, everything else is pretty much up for the taking. Structures can be destroyed a lot easier once that stone is gone. Your pantries and boxes and little baskets can be raided to get all your stuff. And after, spending quite a few hours grinding out this stuff and getting back and everything's gone, you lose that motivation. It does have a certain account sort of progression. You do gain extra, let's say, plans for different types of buildings, different ways of building, that kind of thing. You still got all the basics, but you can expand that. And that does give you some motivation to keep going afterwards, but just not enough, because it's that all that building up stage just takes so long. The building up to actually get a base, building up to actually have clothing, building up to actually have a decent weapon. That all takes a substantial amount of time. And that's just not enjoyable when you're running around in the nude throwing spears at things that can kill you in a couple of hits. It's, for my final opinion, I would say there are better options out there. Far more polished options with greater mechanics. As I said at the beginning, you'd probably just go and play Ark, It's really not going to compete with those really big survival games right now. It is free, but I'd say you'd value your time more than that. Thanks, everyone.